Good day, everybody. This is once again the Municipality Matters podcast. I am your host, the Cantastic, and I am here interviewing for the first time ever someone running for mayor. Now, if you've been watching these series, you've noticed I've been only interviewing a city council candidate. So I'm very pleased to be welcoming Mr. Dick Passmore, who is running for mayor of Haldimand County, Ontario. And if you've never been to Haldimand County, it is located along the shores of Lake Erie. Some of the more prominent communities in the county include Hagersville, Caledonia, Dunnville, Cayuga, a lot of villages scattered around the county. And so Dick is running for mayor of this municipality. Dick, how are you doing tonight?
Doing very well, thank you. Thank you for that fantastic intro. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a pseudonym I use when I'm writing and podcasting. So thank you for that. And so you're running for mayor of Haldimand County. That's very interesting. It was in the news just recently with the provincial election just passing us because turns out that people in Haldimand County really wanted to decide to elect an independent instead of going Tory, which had been going for decades. And it's just
Yes,
yeah. Other than that, but you registered to run for mayor. I think right on May 2nd, right, the first day
the
or so.
very first person on the very first day.
Okay, very interesting. And well, let's get into just a little bit about you. Well, look, who is Dick Passmore? And like, if you want to give like a lot of details about your life story, like go right ahead. But maybe just give some details about you. Introduce yourself to the people.
Hey, I've asked that question a lot myself. Who is Dick Passmore? And it's the answer's changed over the years. I was a blue collar worker. I spent many years working in the family business, operating a truck. I worked in a factory for quite a while, about 18 years there, and then moved into the helping profession. So that's when I started working in long-term care and hospice. Um, and all through this time, right from my early days, watching my parents being involved in the community, I've always had this interest in helping out our communities. Um, my parents were involved in an organization that raised money for different charities, and I guess I got the bug from them, and I became what we refer to as a serial volunteer. So I'm a former firefighter. I've been on several different boards and committees in the area, lifelong resident, and I've got a great connection with our community and a deep connection. And I love to see our small communities succeed. And so recently I've been somewhere between asked and goaded into putting my name into the mayoral race. And I've had the question asked, maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but why did you run for mayor and not start off with council? And for me, the answer is that I really want to look at transforming the culture of the county as far as the leadership role goes. That's the place you need to start it. So in order to make the entire organization more transparent and accountable, it needs to come from the very top. So if I come in as a councillor, the powers there are very limited. And I feel that in the mayoral place, I would have a better opportunity to help affect change from that spot. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of the start.
Yeah, it's interesting because which part of Haldimand County are you from, or did you grow up in?
So born and raised in Canberra, which became part of Dunnville, town of Dunnville, which then became part of the regional municipality of Haldimand Norfolk, which
Okay.
then reverted back to Haldimand County.
Ah,
So never really left, but I've had my address changed about 6 times. Currently living in the urban area in Dunnville.
okay, that's interesting. Like you decide to go right for the top job instead of just starting from council, because I think a lot of people who run for mayor like were serving on council first, so they would have the sort of experience. But you mentioned that like you could affect more change from the mayor's spot than from just as a counselor. But I think under our municipal government system, the mayor, whether it's like a county level, like a county like in Haldeman or in the big city, there's still one vote at the end of the day. So
It is,
yeah,
but the way that the office of the mayor is operated, the way the work is done on a day-to-day basis in that job, that's what can affect change in the rest of the system. If you lead by example, if you lead by a data-driven approach, And if you come from a grassroots background like myself, you can have a better place to affect change as far as the relationships with the rest of the councillors go. And you can work together to develop a shared vision instead of it being one person's overpowering vision. I really want to see what our smaller communities need. A lot of times decisions seem to be made on what's best for a perceived vision of what the county needs. But I don't know if people ever ask what's best for the people of Selkirk if we make a change countywide. What effect does that have on them? How does this benefit the people of Canberra or of Selkirk if we make a major change? So I really want to try to get back to that power for those councillors to bring their information forward, their views of the constituents, and then work to establish consensus and a rapport with each of those people so that we can then move forward on things. I just see things like this, you know, the Empire purchase up in Nanticoke as being another example of what's good for us today for the county, but not looking at what benefit does this have for the people of our smaller communities and their children and their children, and you know, beyond that. Having worked in the Indigenous community for many years, I was accustomed to working within the framework of the 7 generations thinking. So instead of what can I benefit from today, where will my children's children benefit from? And how will that affect the lives of everyday people in the rest of the county? So those are some of the things that I can bring into this. And instead of having this centralized hierarchy of power, I want to see more of a grassroots approach where the councillors can bring these ideas forward for what benefits them, and then we can work for economy of scale and better governance on the overall system, but being more reflective and more responsive to the needs of the smaller communities.
Interesting. You mentioned that you had a background in hospice care, and I found that, and also long-term care, as I understand. I find
Yes.
that very interesting because you talk about a lot about just building community and bringing the community together. So what aspects, or I guess for maybe you could explain or expand a bit if people aren't familiar with the idea of hospice care, like what exactly like is that, and how do you feel that sort of experience helps parlay into being the mayor and sort of bringing the community together as you talked about?
Well, there are a few different aspects of it that really line up. One of the things is having an appreciation for what those frontline workers who have helped us get through as far as we are today within the pandemic. I've got a great appreciation for our healthcare workers and for what they've been through, having worked front lines pre-COVID. But the thing with hospice care, for those who aren't familiar, when a person is near end of life, they can have either a residential hospice experience or a home hospice experience. And basically, the care is centered around that individual and their needs and their wants. And it helps people to transition through the last stages of their life and have what we would refer to in the hospice care world as a good death, which is one that is with dignity and with you deciding how you want things to go. And after being involved in seeing how much it means to people to be able to live a happy life, even for the last few months of their lives, it extends back to me to what can we do further upstream to make our lives happier, to make our lives more enriched and more fulfilled. And that needs to come from that person-centered care that we give in hospice. And that needs to come in a person-centered approach for council and a person-centered approach for staff within the county. We need to look at what benefits we can bring to the individual, because when an individual votes, they're voting for what usually works for them. And we need to make sure that we reflect back to them what they're asking for. So having a bit more opportunity for people to have a say in their governance and have a say in what direction they'd like things to go. And then for us as the people who are the stewards of their vote, we're the stewards of their money when it comes in through taxes. We should really be doing things that have input from the community and things that will benefit the community. And together, we can all have a much stronger community throughout Haldimand County.
Yeah, like I think healthcare is like a major issue of so forgive me if my knowledge is a little weak here, but I don't know if does Haldimand County have like their own local hospital, or do they utilize the one from Hamilton, nearby Hamilton? Because because you're just right next to each other. So
We have two fantastic hospitals. We have West Haldimand General Hospital up in Hagersville, and we have Haldimand War Memorial Hospital here in Dunnville. Both of these are first-class small hospitals. I'm not sure where the stats are these days, but I know I was on the board with the Dunnville Hospital a few years back, and we were one of the top 50, I believe, small hospitals in Ontario. And it's the hospital in our community is one of those things that is a galvanizing factor. You can talk about raising money for anything you want, but if you mention that it's for the hospital, the community steps up. Our hospital foundation is an amazing organization that really helps to support the work that's being done there. And several years back, they were looking at closing our hospital. And we actually had a large collection of farmers who, this is way before the current convoy things that are going on. A group of local farmers actually came and did a convoy and protected our hospital space and showed the strength of our community in wanting to keep this institution alive in our community. And the province backed off and kept our hospital open for us. So when people in Haldimand County have something in their mind that they like or don't like, nothing's going to get in their way. As you've seen in the recent provincial election, if there's a distasteful situation going on, the Haldimand County people will not put up with it, nor will Norfolk, and we will stand up and make history if we need to make things change.
Yeah, let's go into that a little bit, because I believe the issue surrounding the candidacy of the independent that ended up winning over the Tory was also precipitated by, I believe, that there's a major development in Nanticoke. I think you brought it up earlier. It's they're the plan is to rezone that to residential and bring in about an additional 40,000 residents. Now, I believe Haldimand County is currently around just 50,000 residents, or
45,608 at last count.
Okay, so that would be a major increase of people coming into the county. So, like, I want to know your thoughts about this kind of development, because one of the things that I think that is really on top of mind lately for municipal politics is affordable housing in general, not just affordable housing, but just developing housing and where it goes and like how that affects the people around the community. It doesn't matter if it's like in a big city or a suburb. I think even in small towns where there's been a community that's been there for decades, and then suddenly they have land that they've been used to that was used for one thing. Now suddenly people are being told, oh, it's going to become a new residential area and there are going to be new people coming in. So why don't you give me your thoughts on this development? Because I believe it was also there was a controversial MZO, ministerial zoning order, that was used in order to get this approved. So just your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I was one of the first people to come out vocally against this development. I looked at all the different factors, all the pros and cons, and one of the biggest challenges that I had with this was in a social media post that was put out by the mayor and some of the councillors who talked. They talked about, basically, we didn't do it right in Dunnville, we didn't do it right in Caledonia, we didn't do it right in the other communities, but we're going to do it right this time. And we're going to spend a bunch of money and we're going to build this new place the right way up in Nanticoke. And we're going to do it. We're going to take away some of the industrial lands. We had some pushback from Stelco, who said they may end up pulling out of not just Nanticoke, but the province, which means Hamilton would lose one of their larger employers. And none of this is done with the idea of looking at what benefits all those other communities in Haldimand County. We look at building all the sprawl. And again, Hamilton isn't the only place facing sprawl challenges. We're losing green space, we're losing industrial space, and we're losing farmland regularly to developments where we have all these single family homes, which are not attainable for many people. They're definitely not affordable. And we're seeing the falling apart of our downtown cores in some of our smaller communities. So building a big development up in Nanticoke would not benefit any of our smaller communities anywhere in the county. It would just take resources away. If you build a strip of houses and you put 6 houses on a block, it costs you the same amount of money for the infrastructure to go in, the sewers, the water, everything, as it would if you put an apartment in there that held 100 people instead of 6 families. It's the same amount of money for that infrastructure. So why not take a look at our downtown cores who are suffering right now and look at infill, look at repurposing some of these existing buildings, look at making more walkable neighborhoods in those downtown areas, which would then drive more local business, which would boost up our local industries or our local, commercial businesses. Those are the kind of things we need to be looking at. We don't need to be trying to reinvent the wheel. We have got an amazing community in Dunnville and Caledonia and Jarvis and Selkirk, all these places, and Hagersville. All these places would thrive if they each had a bit more access to housing in a walkable distance from the downtown cores. When I was a kid growing up here in Dunnville, my mom would come in from Canberra in the pickup truck, we'd park, and we could get absolutely everything we needed by parking in one spot in a municipal lot. We could get everything we needed in the stores. Now we've got just a handful of stores that are still open and lots of vacant storefronts, and it's the same story throughout all of our small communities. We need to really start putting some money back into those areas. And if we're going to have accessible and affordable, appropriate housing for people, we need to understand that not everybody can afford a $900,000 home. We have a lot of people, especially younger generation, my kids, they don't really have a lot of interest in buying. They want to rent, and there are no rentals available anymore. We're at a zero rental state here in Dunnville right now. In the rest of the county, we see a lot of the same thing. So forget about developing and building this brand new thing with 15,000 homes and a brand new sewage plant and wishing jobs would show up once you build that. Let's support the jobs that are here, the businesses that are here, the people who've been here. Let's put some money into the people who've been paying taxes into our system for 5 years, 10 years. Some people have been here like me their entire life and would love to see our smaller communities thrive.
That's
I could get on my soapbox, but I'm just trying to stay seated
no,
as
no,
long
I
as I can.
understand. I very much sympathize. I do one of my hobbies is like I used to like do a lot of visiting around small towns, just to like get a feel. I think I was doing this during the pandemic when there was like nothing to do and like I was just really by myself. So I thought, oh, why don't I just drive out to some small town I've never heard of it, just get the feel and the vibe of how the community is. A lot of when I went there, and a lot of them seems they're okay, but they're really very quiet, and like the economic activity just seems really low or just really quiet there, or they're not open as regularly as I think people expect them to be. So it's very good that you brought up the point about how to revitalize what's existing rather than just building this new thing and just having it eat up more resources in the long run, right? I guess speaking of economic development, so you talked about a lot about revitalizing, I guess, the more urban cores in the county. Like, is there a particular kind of like business that you want to see come back or start up in those communities? Like, because I believe like agriculture is probably still a very strong economic driver in Haldimand County, but um, it's not the only thing that's driving the economic growth in the county. So is there like, do you have some economic plan for the county you want to take to the voters?
One of the challenges that we've always had in most of our smaller communities here is an identity crisis. When we talk about Dunnville, for example, we don't have a distinct identity. Are we the river town? Are we the place you go to see the birds when they migrate? Are we the festival town? We don't really have a defined presence. When you go to a place like Port Dover, we know that Port Dover means Friday the 13th. Port Dover means the beach. But our smaller communities, we don't necessarily have a good solid identity. And one of the challenges that I've seen, and people have spoken to me about this since the instatement of the regional government system, it's been we don't want to be defined as all Haldimand County all the time, because each of our small communities is a unique entity unto itself. And the things that make Jarvis unique are completely different than Cayuga. And we need to be able to find out what those identities are for those small communities and prop those up and build them. We've got all this riverfront along the Grand River. We've got a beautiful lakefront here on the north shore of Lake Erie, but we don't have a strong identity to attract visitors. So I think we really need to go back to our communities. And, we did something a while back when we were looking at some land by the river, and we had the county actually came and did a really fantastic job of presenting a lot of options. And then we use the Dotmocracy. Have you seen that? You get 3 stickers, and every person that comes in gets 3 stickers, and you get to put 1, 2, or 3 on your choices for what you like. you can hear the voice of the people in that. And if the voice of the people says Dunnville should be the town that focuses on its connection to the Grand River, then we can start looking at that as helping to build that identity and helping to make sure that all of our developments are connected with that. And that helps with our economic development, because we are a great tourist area. We have our agriculture. We have that. That's a steady, as long as we keep from developing those agricultural lands and keep those green for the farmers. But we really need to work more on developing each of our small communities and getting their face out there. And that's where we really need that grassroots reaching out to your councillor and having the councillors really be connected with their communities in a really meaningful way, so we can bring their voices back. And that's really what this should be. It shouldn't be a group of councillors and myself deciding what we should do and everybody has to go along with it. We need to hear that from the people. And I don't think we've been getting that. And I think we need that.
You know, that's very interesting. Like, because I think the issues that you brought up are very similar to cities that have amalgamated, and even though they have very distinct identities or communities, I think of most obvious example, Toronto or Hamilton. Hamilton was amalgamated almost over 20 years ago, and I think still to this day, it's different areas still identified by their own. But I didn't realize like place like Haldimand County, when there's there's it's a smaller community, but yet there are very distinctive identities from all the different smaller communities within it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's,
and we need to celebrate those.
yeah,
We need to celebrate those identities in each of those communities. I grew up in Canberra Township, and Canberra Township had it was proud of its fire hall. That was kind of the central point. Its social focus was there, a lot of agriculture around it, but that was a hub of central activities for everybody. Everything took place there. Wedding receptions took place there. The community gatherings, baseball games, everything was centered around that. It was a very simple early model of a community hub almost. And we really need to get back to that model where we can celebrate those communities and prop them up and try to get more interest in supporting that we're all made up of small parts. We're not made up of all the same thing. And that's, that looks back at the multiculturalism of Canada itself. We also have the multi-community face of some of our rural areas. And I know Haldimand County is one of the larger geographical areas, but the population here isn't much bigger than Ward 14 in Hamilton, for example. So it's interesting to look at the challenges that we face because things are so different between each of the communities, trying to get the voices heard and then to act upon those in a meaningful way for people.
Interesting. So we're coming to the end of our time here. So I just have two more questions. The last one, I promise, will be a little more fun. I want to get a little bit about the politics here. So Mayor Ken Hewitt has been the mayor of Haldimand County since 2010. So he's been the mayor for 12 years. I looked at his previous election results. He's done well, but he's never had like a major landslide that indicates that he was a very popular local politician. And obviously, if anyone has paid attention to Haldimand County in the past month during the provincial election, you may notice that Mr. Mayor Hewitt was the PC candidate. He ran, but in a surprise, as you mentioned earlier, sometimes when folks in Haldimand County don't like something kind of just imposed on them, they decide to have a mind of their own and do something else completely. And an independent, Bobby Ann Brady, was elected. So last I checked, looks like Mr. Hewitt has decided to run for another term as mayor. As of this time, you are the only candidate opposing him. I believe there was someone else running before, and now he's gone back to running for council. So just, he is obviously a much more well-known name at this moment. So like, I don't know, like are you comfortable discussing maybe your campaigning strategy? How are you gonna go out and reach out to people that, introduce yourself? Because him being the mayor for the past 12 years, people probably obviously know who he is and more familiar in the municipal politics. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. People just vote for the name they recognize. So like, how are you going to get past that hurdle?
Yeah, absolutely. The incumbent has a great advantage. So when I started into this process, I've known of Mayor Hewitt. I actually was his MC at his inaugural event when he was first elected. That's one of the many hats that I wear in our community, MC for community events. But I digress. When I first started talking to people about my looking at running, I spoke to a lot of people, including those who are on, the insiders, shall we say. And I was told that that Mayor Hewitt had said he wasn't going to run. So I thought, well, that's an open field there for candidates. It's fantastic. And then in January, there was an article in our local paper that said that Mayor Hewitt and all the councillors were planning on running again for their roles. And I thought, okay, well, now I've got a challenge, so that's okay. I've faced challenges before, and my name is well known in the Dunnville area, but I have been involved in things throughout the region. But I have to get my name out there a bit more, and we'll talk about that. So then Mayor Hewitt didn't have his name in yet, but he then was tapped by Ford for the provincial run, and then one of the councillors put their name in to run for mayor. Then when Ken did not succeed in the provincial run, the councillor dropped out, Ken went back in. And so far, I'm the only one who has committed from day one to this opportunity to be the mayor of Haldimand County. And I'm going to be working very hard to get out there, to knock on doors, to have my phone bank of fantastic volunteers working together to make those calls. But I'm really trying to get out there for the communities that aren't as familiar with me. And that's really what it's about. I've always been in these communities. I have grown up in Haldimand County, and I think I've been to every Caledonia fair. My mom actually had a picture framed from when I was in grade 3, and I got second prize in the public school art contest at the Caledonia Fair. She had that framed and kept it for years. So my connection with these communities doesn't come from the leadership role. It comes from the grassroots. It comes from the ground. It comes from being present at community events, at Jarvis Cornfest, at when they had the Cayuga Fest going on. One of my kids actually won the Baby Sweet Cheeks contest in the Cayuga Fest. So we've been there. We've been in all these places. We've been part of the community. And it's just a matter of people associating my name with, oh, it's that guy that was on the stage speaking, or it's that guy that they called on to do the land acknowledgement, or it's that guy that was part of the founding committee for this or that. So getting my name out, that's the key. And to do that, I'm going to be out in the communities. I'm going to be talking to people. I want to hear what people have to say and what's important to them, because the people in Dunnville have told me loud and clear what they want. But I haven't heard as much from the people in Caledonia, from Jarvis, from Hagersville, from Selkirk. So I need to hear what they have to say and what's important to them. And I'm here to listen. Now I sound like Fraser Crane. I'm here to listen. But
No, that's great. Being a listener, I think, is a very strong and positive quality when it comes to leadership roles. And it seems like you've name dropped a number of local events in Haldimand County. So I think my last question originally was, if I was wanted to come visit Haldimand County, what is the major events coming up? I guess during maybe in the summer months, what's to do, or maybe you could tell me if I was to come to Haldimand County, what are some restaurants I really should check out in the local area?
well, if you're coming in from Norfolk, you have to stop at Concession Road breweries up there. They've got it's a local brewery, which is not something we have a lot of in Haldimand County. Fantastic community. We see a lot of people up there that are regular visitors. They've got live music. Really nice place. So if you're coming through that way, that's fantastic. Hang a left and go up through into Hagersville. You have to stop and get some chocolate from My Sweet World. If you haven't been there yet, the owner is an absolutely amazing guy who brings his cocoa beans in from Africa and uses local products to make milk chocolate. Absolutely amazing. So you have to grab some chocolate there. Then you can continue on into Caledonia. Where to start in Caledonia? So many great places there. Yeah, you have to stop at the Oasis, have a milkshake. Head down into Cayuga. Check out the library in Cayuga. That's really cool. You can sit and just relax there for a few minutes on your way through. Yeah, you could probably stop by and grab something from Carolinian Cafe when they're open. They've got some really good fair trade coffee and snacks. You can work your way down to Dunnville. And when you get there, you can go to a place like Deb's or like Bob's Place. There's so many small eateries in the community. When you finish with that, then you can head along back across the bridge and through Port Maitland. You can see the waterfront. You can drive the waterfront all the way along. We've got so many great things to see. You can end up in Selkirk up at the Sunflower Cafe. You can make a whole round trip of it and take as many days as you want. There's lots of little bed and breakfasts to stay at. Haldimand County is a great place for tourism. It's a great place to live. I've never found a reason to move away, and we've seen our population grow. We've seen a lot of people coming here from Hamilton and from Toronto, and our population is growing because people like the small town.
Yeah.
But then we hear people say, yeah, but it's not the same as it used to be. That's because we have so many people that come in, live here, and then do their shopping elsewhere. So propping up those downtown cores, like I mentioned, will give people who move here that small town feel again, and allow them to have that really great quality of life that we have, where everybody knows everybody else's business in a good way.
Well, with that, I want to thank Dick Passmore for spending some time with me on Municipality Matters podcast to discuss his candidacy for mayor of Haldimand County. Dick, where can people find you online and in social media if they want to reach out and find some more about you?
So the easiest jumping off point is passmoreformayor.ca. It's my campaign website. From there, you can click on a link to take you to my personal page, which gives all my background bio. It's if you've got lots of time or if you're having trouble sleeping and you want to get something to put you to sleep, you can read all my bio. That page was originally set up because I was being reached out to by people for community events. So I set up that page. But the passmoreformayor.ca, it has information on there about the candidacy, information about how to put your name in for a sign, how to become a volunteer, and please click on that link. And we also have the donate button. As a grassroots person myself, I am not willing to accept any donations coming in from developers. I want all of my donations to come from the ground up. I want my donations to come from the people who want me to serve for them. So no developer money is coming into my campaign, and but there is a donate button on there. And so if you'd like to click on it and get your receipt, it's not a tax deductible receipt because that's not allowed in municipal politics, but you will get a receipt and you will get my eternal gratitude. So please check out passmoreformayor.ca, and you can get onto our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook from there.
Cool.
Thank you, Alan. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem, Dick. Thank you very much for your time, because I know you're definitely busy with this, and I'm sure a number of other things were going on in your life. And just thank you again for your time. I would definitely put all the links you provided and the website on my show notes so people can find you when this goes out. And once again, I thank Dick Passmore for coming on the podcast today, and have a good day, everybody.